Hi, and welcome to all of our followers. My name is Stephanie Mata, Associate Attorney here at the law offices of Belcher and Rito Casamayor. Accompanying me by video today is the attorney Alexis Blanco. Alexis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Stephanie. You got it right this time, huh?
Yeah, I do this a little instinctually, so sometimes I say the wrong name. But no, Alexis is the man when it comes to EB2 NIW. And we both handle this case with a lot of frequency in our office. And we wanted to address our English-speaking followers today about this process and what updates and what changes there have been, particularly this year, 2021. So today, Alexis, our topic is EB2 NIW for our English-speaking followers. For those of you who may have questions, you can ask the questions in Spanish and we could just translate live and try and answer those questions live, or preferably send us your questions in English so we can respond. If there's any interest in an EB2 NIW video in Spanish, please let us know in the comments and we'll know to do that video. But for now, Alexis, I guess let's begin. Let's delve into it. Initially, what is EB2 NIW? Is it permanent residency? Is it a visa? Sort of give us the layout.
Sure. So EB2 NIW is a really great benefit for those who apply and receive it. It leads to the famous permanent residency, the green card, right? So we're talking about an immigrant-based visa. And so think about it as a two-step process, right? Step one, we're going to show that we classify, or that the person classifies for the EB2 NIW, right, under the exceptional ability category, or, well, if they have the degrees. And then stage two, we're pursuing the green card, the permanent residency. And
the actual process.
Both consular and, of course, in the United States.
Beautiful. So I think the first thing we should let people know is we can qualify under one of two ways. We can either qualify you as an advanced degree holder, or we can qualify you under exceptional ability. We're going to go into that in detail. But I think as an overview, the important point of this permanent residency is essentially we need to show immigration that you can bring something that is in the national interest to the U.S. The knowledge, the experience, what you have to bring to the United States is in the national interest of the United States. It's in our interest to not require a company to petition for you. It is in our interest to let you come in as a self-petitioner because you have something to bring. You have something that can benefit the United States of America. So that is, as an overview, it is a self-petition. This is a beautiful option for a lot of people because, Alexis, there are people who don't have a petitioner. There are people who don't have a company that could petition for them. So this is a self-petition in order to obtain permanent residency in the U.S. Let's go into sort of the easy route, Alexis, the advanced degree. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, that's the easiest way to show the first step of the stage one process, right? So, hey, I have my advanced degree or bachelor's plus 5 years of post-baccalaureate work experience within the field, right? And great. I mean, we've made step one and you're in. And that's very easy to show for many people, right? But then we have the concern of, well, the national interest waiver. The benefit here is, like Stephanie mentioned, you're self-petitioning, so you don't have an employer, and you're bypassing and forgoing the labor certification process. And that's the big thing. So that's where the standard comes in of that your admission to the United States will be in the national interest. So we're going to waive that labor certification process. So even though we can show, hey, I have the advanced degree, hey, I have the baccalaureate plus post 5 years baccalaureate experience, either way, we're going to show that you have the exceptional ability. We're going to show all the things that you've done, all the recognition you've received, and we'll get into that now because that's going to help establish that not only have you done this before, right? Have you impacted the industry in your home country before or in many other places, but that you're well positioned to advance something along the same lines here in the United States. And there's a need for that somehow, right? And I think that's the biggest point, Stephanie.
Right. So it's exactly what Alexis is saying. While you can just show that you have a degree, usually, and especially at our firm that we have a lot of experience with this, what we find is the successful route is to also show some of these exceptional ability things that we're going to discuss now, because it speaks to the fact that you can benefit the US. So as Alexis was saying, you can either qualify because you have an advanced degree or because you meet 3 of 7 of exceptional ability criteria. So you have to meet 3 of 7 of these criteria if you don't have the degree. However, us at the firm, we like to have some of these as well because it always helps the case. So we're going to go straight into the exceptional ability criteria. Number one happens to be also the advanced degree. So the idea is you have not just advanced, just an academic record, diploma, certificate, anything that shows that you have learning related to your area of exceptional ability. So if you are a pilot and you have pilot school, that counts. It is a degree. It doesn't necessarily have to be a master's, but to show education in your industry. That is number one of the 7 criteria. So Alexis, any other points there? Otherwise, go to number 2.
I say no. You covered it there. I mean, let's go to number 2. I think number 2 is let's document, if possible, 10 years of full-time work experience, right? So this could be, sometimes we can incorporate some of the things before your degree there, right? So there is some flexibility, but it has to be kind of within that role. If you're, for example, you're a general manager, right? And this could be in many different things, right? But you started off as an assistant manager. Well, it depends what the role was. Maybe we can include some of that work experience. But if from assistant manager, you kind of went into a managerial role and you're now supervising quite a few people or the department, but you're not yet general manager, that's more of a direct line, right? So the ability to move up, as you might say, all that experience or some of that experience can be incorporated to the 10 years work experience. But yeah, we really want to show that. I think many people have it. Again, this is just one of the 7 criteria we can show. You don't exactly need it, but it's a great one for many people that honestly just have it. They have the work experience.
Yeah, I do love the cases with the work experience because it's such an easy criteria to qualify, right? Okay, so next is going to be a license to practice your profession. Obviously, like what we've discussed, this isn't going to apply to everybody. This is going to apply to individuals who work in fields that do have a license to practice what they do. Going back to my pilot example, you need to have a license to be a pilot. So we're just going to basically submit a copy of your license and the criteria in order to obtain that license. So maybe you need to have X amount of flight hours or X amount of experience, the criteria, and then the copy of your license. This also is very common in the medical industry. A lot of individuals in the medical field need to have a license in order to practice what they do in the medical field. So license is our number 3 possible criteria for exceptional ability.
Something, Stephanie, I also want to add is sometimes there's certifications that you get along along in your career. So going along with doctors, right? So you might do certain courses, like think of a mini course where you might specialize, or you want to do hours to become up to date on the latest trends or information. This happens a lot, like with engineers, for example, where they're always recertifying certain things, or a lot of people in the business world. These small certifications, and small in the sense of maybe they're 2 to 4 hour course, maybe it's a weekend program. Some of them actually apply and will help establish one of the criteria.
As an example there, Alexis, for our people who are watching who are in finance, a certification in Python. That's someone that we see so often because it is a software that's very common in your industry. So that's another example.
Exactly. So we're not talking about like a certification that you speak English, Spanish, or any other language. Rather, within your career and within your field, that demonstrates that you're advancing and of course, establishing your expertise almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, want to go to number 4?
Yeah, Stephanie, I think, this is an easy one too. Let's talk about salary, right? I think this is a good one. Most people will make above average salary in their field. So we want to demonstrate a high salary if possible. But I think anything above average would be great. Now, if you work in Canada, we're going to compare you to other Canadians within your field. If you're in South Africa, we're going to compare you to other South Africans, right? And we're using the monetary dollar of that country. So we're not going to use and peg you to what individuals earn in the United States, unless, of course, you work in the United States and that's the salary you're using. So it's a home country, home currency comparison. And there are many ways to get these figures, comparison figures. I mean, one way is through private means, right? So it really depends what you want to do, like salary.com here in the United States or PayScale. But many countries have their own version. And also the government sometimes tracks these figures, right, Stephanie?
Right, absolutely. So, for instance, here in the US, we have the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they provide common salary information for, common industries and common professions here in the US. We deal with a lot of British clients, and the UK has their own sort of version, which is the Department of Labor there publishes the common salaries for industries. Obviously, you guys will know your country better than us. So, for instance, we had a client that was from the Ivory Coast, and I said, wow, I have not dealt with the government entity of the Ivory Coast to see if they provide salary information. And so I asked him, I said, hey, look, in your country, is there an entity, is there a Department of Labor that provides common salary information and high salary and low salary? And that person was able to find it. So in that sense, sometimes you guys will have more access to the information than we do. We obviously do all of our research. But if you know, hey, Alexis, Stephanie, in my country, there's this department and they publish the common salaries. Provide us that information because that helps us in order to develop this argument that you make a high salary in comparison to others in your field, right?
100%. And sometimes you'll see that maybe associations within your field in the country, they track these figures. I've had that before for many countries in South America where the association, I mean, they're very well organized and they know what different people in the field are earning. Usually
the Association of Accountants.
Yeah. So, check your resources because it's you never know. You have access to it. And I think that kind of goes into the next one, right, Stephanie? The next category.
Right. Perfect. So our next category is going to be membership. So membership is an interesting category because unlike the EB1, which is another one that we have videos about, it is very general in that you just have to be a member of a professional association. So, Association of Professional Accountants, Association of Pilots of America, Association of, and by the way, it could be in your country, okay? It doesn't have to be in the US. Now, while the law doesn't say that you have to be a member in an association that requires a minimum sort of entry level, so I can't go in and pay to be a member. It doesn't require that, but that's very useful. Because if there's a minimum base criteria in order to be a member, that helps our argument to be able to say, look, he's a member or she's a member because they are exceptional in their fields, because they have experience, because they have education. That helps us more than the membership that you can just pay for. So when you're looking at these, and by the way, when you're doing this, Alexis, how many times do we have a consultation with a person that we say, hey, listen, you meet 3 of 7. Try and get me a membership and get me 4 of 7 because a lot of these people are eligible for the membership. They just don't do it. So right now is the time to look at the associations in your field and say, okay, wow, I'm an IT professional. And the UK, I know this one because I did this one recently. The UK has an organization of chartered professionals in IT. I'm going to join that membership. What you're going to give me is the copy of your membership card and the minimum criteria to be a member, the rules of the organization to be a member. That helps so much. The membership where there's a minimum criteria, I love it. I don't know about you, Alexis. I know you and I are always on the same page. I know you like it too.
I'm right behind you on that one. I love it. I love it. I love it. And you know what? Sometimes, just to take it a step further, when you're a member within the home country, these associations will have an international organization that kind of supersedes it. And you can easily become a member of that too. And there is a level of prestige, I think, that goes along with it. At the very least, it's a second association that you're now a member of. And again, we're looking for membership in professional associations. It's very clear cut. I mean, as Stephanie mentioned, this is EB2 classification versus EB1 classification. The criteria is different. It's, I would say, a higher standard for the EB1A, right? They're looking for extraordinary ability versus here, exceptional ability. Yes, there's a nuanced difference between the two. And so, we like to kind of go off of that and use that towards your benefit. And a lot of professionals really, really, really do have membership or can get it, as you said, as that easy 4th category.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one, Alexis, number 6.
Number 6. So number 6, and I'm going to kind of tie in number 7, right?
Yeah, let's bleed.
a catch-all, right? Other comparable categories. Well, and it kind of fits in my opinion, with industry recognition, which is the 6th criterion. And now this industry recognition is going to come from individuals and organizations, right? So think of other experts within the field. They want to talk well about you. They have nice things to say. Maybe they've worked with you. They've read about some of your research or your work, right? really depends on the field. There's a lot of flexibility there, but we're going to try to establish that, hey, you know, these individuals are experts themselves, have found recognition themselves. And then kind of from organizations, right? So industry recognition, well, guess what? If you've served as a judge, you work for a university and you're a member of the thesis board evaluating master's or PhD degree students, right? That's a recognition, right? You're an expert if you're serving in that role. Other common things that we can apply is maybe if you've authored an article in a trade journal or published, right, in a prestigious journal. I mean, there are many other ones, right, Stephanie? I mean, media, for example.
Yeah, so essentially, this is exactly like Alexis was saying. You have to show that you've been recognized for your achievements in your industry, and we could do that in a million different ways. And we borrow ideas from other visa categories because we know kind of what immigration looks for. Media is an interesting one. So maybe you were interviewed in a press publication about your thoughts on the current tendencies or trends in your industry. That's useful. So an interview, we usually like interviews that are printed over audio because they don't accept audio and we would have to transcribe it. It's kind of a hassle. So if you could get a written interview, even maybe a written press article about you, maybe there's a press article about you that's discussing something new that you created in IT, and that's very different. And they had a whole press article about you in this IT magazine. Fantastic. Maybe you wrote an article in that IT magazine that said, hey, these are the tendencies and trends that are happening right now. What other examples? You discuss judging, awards here, if you've gotten awards or prizes, if you've won some sort of contest in your industry. When we talk about authorship, if you have been cited, that's a beautiful one. So let's say we have one now that's in the medical industry. And so obviously their work has been published in professional journals and medical journals. But what we like to see even more than that is if you've been cited. So maybe the bibliography or the index of someone or some sort of written publication that cites you. That's beautiful, right? Any other thing we could add here?
I mean, I think you kind of hit them all. I mean, other things could be like if you have a patent or a license, right, some intellectual property, I think we could consider that there as well. Also, if you've spoken at a conference, right? So, you know, these associations, we're coming back to them. They host several conferences. Universities do, you know, there are many different ways. And if you're a speaker, well, guess what? I mean, I think there's a value to that. I think there's that what you have to say, in your opinion, matters, right? Your perspective matters. So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways, right? We could continue. We could do a whole 30-minute video about just industry recognition, and there are a lot of ways to do it, though. So I mean, I think you have to keep an open mind. We keep an open mind. We successfully have kept that open mind, and I think it's important to do so.
And you know what's an important one that we should discuss here is essentially this option is open for a lot of different industries. So the evidence will depend on the industry that you're in. And what's important is for us, we always say, throw as much as you can with us, because it's easy for us to take out what we don't think we should include, but we can't make up anything from thin air. So throw everything you have at us and we will tell you, hey, let's include this, let's not include this. And we will basically decide based on our own experience, what's the best things to include and exclude, right? But okay, so we've gone through our criteria. We have determined you qualify. How do we argue, Alexis, the national interest?
Well, I mean, it's the big part, right? And you know, kind of to go at it, this covers a lot of fields, right? So just, you know, kind of go over this. Anyone in the field of science, business, even arts, right? We can argue in EB2 NIW, we can introduce this visa for, right? So when we're showing a national interest, I mean, there's flexibility. It kind of changed. I think it became, it's still a pretty high standard, but I think it became a little bit more flexible after the matter of Dinosaur in 2016, early 2017. And what we want to do, I guess there's just like 3 steps, right? So step 1, that your proposed endeavor, right? So here's the legalese, and then we'll kind of interpret that for you. But it's easy to follow. The proposed endeavor has both a substantial merit and national importance. What does that mean? I mean, we're talking about the economy, different industries like healthcare, maybe it's cultural, right? We've had people in the field of music apply it and successfully obtain the visa. Climate, technology, housing, maybe underserved areas. I mean, the list is almost endless, right? But I think one of the best examples is well, I'm just going to work at a university and do my research there. That is totally fine. Maybe your research is of such importance that other people are going to review that research. Maybe your research is in the field of cancer. That's a national issue. That's a health concern. Maybe you're a pilot, right? And this is the great one that we use a lot because it's an amazing example. You're a pilot. We have a shortage of pilots in the United States, and your route is going to be regional, maybe within the same state. That's okay because it's helping fulfill a demand that exists across the United States. So don't always think that your work has to be national in scope per se. There's a grayness to it, right? There are many ways to maybe describe that and present that. And we'll kind of go back and forth because at one end, we have the knowledge and the experience of working with hundreds of people applied for the EB2 NIW. But of course, you have the experience of your field, and maybe you already know the demand or what that demand can be, right, Stefan?
So, you know what I always love to add to this is if you know an individual in the US that works in your industry, and that individual can speak to why there is a need for people like you and then talk about what you can bring. I love to include those types of letters. So that's a letter from a US based expert that could say, hey, listen, I am a person in this medical industry, or I am a person in this software engineering field in San Francisco. And I know that, the industry here in San Francisco and in the US needs someone like him. And so these are the things he could bring to the table, as well as this is why we need people. Right now, the job market in San Francisco for software engineers, there's a demand of, over 20% of positions are not filled. And so this could be an expert in the US that could say, I work in this industry and I know from personal experience that this person can benefit. So letters from US based experts, I love including those in that part. And a lot of this part, like Alexis said, is going to be something of a research that we're going to do for you. And we're going to be able to document why is it that this person can bring and be in the national interest of the U.S. That's a lot of our bread and butter of making that argument and trying to really show the officer why it is in our best interest to admit you as a permanent resident of the U.S. But I think we've gone through. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to mention, Alexis. Otherwise, we can go into processing.
No, I mean, aside from that, just to top it off, we're kind of going to go back and kind of demonstrate everything that you've done. This is why maybe going over the categories is great because to finish off that NIW standard, we have to show that you're well positioned and your past kind of hints to your future. So it's good to do that. And I kind of just, when we get into processing, I just want people to know that, sometimes maybe you're not a traditional employee per se, right? So you're not an entrepreneur. You've helped develop businesses. You've played lead roles for companies. Maybe your own company, your own business. Maybe your business is servicing other companies to do XYZ functions. Maybe you're helping other companies succeed in their industry. That has an economic value, right? So, there are many ways that we can also frame you, and we have to be open to understanding your resume, your work experience, because there is flexibility in that. And I think like entrepreneurs are a great candidate for this visa in particular.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. So without further ado, let's go into processing. That way we could jump into a couple of questions because I don't want us to run out of time. So as far as processing goes, it's either, so what we're discussing now, all of this of EB2 NIW, exceptional ability, showing your career, showing everything you do, that is stage 1. That is I-140 stage. Show me that you qualify as an alien of exceptional ability, that it is in the national interest to bring you to the US. Stage 1. Stage 2 is when you actually apply for permanent residency. Basically, immigration says you qualify, so now I'm applying for my green card. That's how I like to describe it. Yeah. Stage 2 can either be done through the U.S. consulate in your home country, that's consular processing, or through an adjustment of status, which could be done concurrently or not concurrently. So obviously we have a preference here. We don't love concurrent, and we would say stay away from it if you can. Try and maintain a secondary status, simply because if you have the bad situation where it's denied, you're really out of luck. But let's go into adjustment of status, Alexis, and then let's touch upon that concurrent processing and why we say take it with a grain of salt and be careful when you do it.
I hear you. I mean, so like Stephanie said, stage one, we're filing the I-140 and the ETA form, 750 or 9089, depends on your preference. Preference here is 9089, but you're providing those two forms and everything about your career. So that's stage one. That's going to take roughly 12 to 18 months. Probably, I don't think it's delayed so much with COVID.
12 to 18, you're right.
Right, I think. And there's no premium processing, right? So everyone likes to ask, because the EB2 category, some other sub-classifications do allow for premium processing. EB2 NIW does not.
Right.
12 to 18 months. And then you have that stage two. Stage two, we're going to file the I-45 form, which, by the way, your family can also enjoy the benefit. So spouse and children. That's it. Now,
children under 21.
Yeah, correct. And now everyone there, I-45, if you're doing the adjustment of status. And in the meantime, since that alone also takes about 12 to 18 months, we're going to file, work
and travel authorization.
Travel authorization work. I was thinking about it in Spanish. I'm sorry. And
work and travel authorization.
And with that authorization, while everything is pending, you are able to, have some flexibility and travel if you need to, and commence employment. And so that's a great benefit to have. But as Stephanie mentioned, unless you file stage one, it's approved, and then file stage two, you could file concurrently, but you want to maintain that status, because if anything happens with stage one, if there's any hiccup, you might even need to go to appeal. It's normally not the case. It's rare, but it can happen. Guess what? We want to protect your status in the United States of America. We want to make sure you have a second opportunity at the EB2 NIW, right? Because you're not limited to just applying once. It's not a bad thing. We've had clients that they've gone through this process either on their own or with a different firm, and it's denied, and then they come to us and we get approved. And I want to say we're doing magic, but we're not. Yes, we have our skills. We're pretty good at what we do, or really good, I'd say. But at the same time, there is a subjective component to all this, right, Stephanie? So you have to keep that in mind. So we always want to maintain the status. But
so
we also have the consular option, right?
Yes. So as far as just another note, as far as the processing. So in order to file the I-45, you do have to be lawfully present in the US. Yeah. So either you're here as a tourist, either you're here as a student, H-1B, there are a host of, temporary visas that you could be here in the US, and then we can file your I-45, but you do have to be in the US on a lawful status in order for us to apply. Yeah. The thing about concurrent means you can submit your I-140 and I-45 stage 1 and stage 2 at the same time. But the fear is that if something happens with your stage 1, you basically lost the money of your stage 2 and you didn't maintain your status. So you would have to depart immediately if that stage 2 is denied. So that's why it's much safer to get your stage 1 approval and then submit stage 2. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of money. You're doing things in a way where you're always preserving your lawful status. And we like to be conservative in that sense, because it really will lead to much more peace of mind for you and your family. But let's talk about consular processing. Consular processing is if you are not lawfully in the US, if you are in your country, or if you also are just like, hey, listen, I have no need to be in the US now. I'm applying to permanent residency eventually. I don't have a visa. This is something I want to do long term, knowing that this is going to take something like 2 years. You're in your home country. Consular processing. The process is slightly different. You're going to submit all the documents to the NBC. Obviously, we'll assist you in all of that. You'll have an appointment at the U.S. Embassy in your home country, U.S. Consulate, and then you will get the immigrant visa stamped in your passport. You have 6 months to enter the U.S. There's 2 ways of doing it. And then, Alexis, I think, kudos to us, because what we really specialize in is call us from the beginning, because we will guide you on, are we going to do consular processing? Are we going to do adjustment of status? How old are your children? Are they 19? Maybe we should adjust. Are they 21? Maybe we shouldn't. We are there to guide you and tell you what we should do and what's the best route for you and your family in order to make sure we can obtain this benefit. And don't be surprised if the phone call with us is, okay, here's your homework. Go do this, and call me next month. And a lot of the time that happens to us as well. So that's, I think, I went into the importance of, an attorney during this process. call us because we can guide you as far as how to apply, when to apply, and how to do so as far as processing when it comes to consular and adjustment of status.
100%. And I think I just want to make it extremely clear to everyone that stage one process does not afford you an immigrant status, non-immigrant status. You have no status whatsoever, right? So when you file, and even when you are approved at stage one, the EB2 NIW classification, the only benefit you have is that now you have a right to file for the legal permanent residency. That is it. It doesn't allow you to travel in the United States, remain in the United States, work. That's why it's a two-stage process. Rather, a non-immigrant, if you filed an H-1B, it's just one stage. Hey, I have the H-1B, I can work. Hey, I have an O-1, I can work. Hey, I have an E-2, I'm ready to invest. I have an F-1, I can study. No, this is a two-stage process, so crystal clear that stage one, no benefit whatsoever other than the right to file in I-45 or do NBC consular processing.
Beautifully said. So I believe, Alexis, we have covered everything in a sort of initial talk. I would love to go to some questions now, unless there's anything else you wanted to say. And if not, let me know to give me the green light to go to questions, okay?
I say, let's give the people what they want. Let's see what they have.
Okay, I'm going to give you this one first, Alexis. Linda asks, I'm a holder of a J1 visa without the 2-year home residency requirement, so I don't have to return to my country. I'm wondering if I can apply for the EB2 NIW. Is it possible to pass from J1 to EB2 NIW?
It is. As long as you don't have the 2-year home residency requirement, you can do it. If you do have it, then you're subject to the bar. You have to depart, or you can try to obtain a waiver, of course. So there are other ways of doing it. But if you're not subject, guess what? You're eligible for an EB2 NIW or your traditional EB2 non-NIW. All the EB2s are available. How's that?
So let's talk about, in her case, at what point should she be starting the EB2 NIW?
So knowing that it takes about 12 to 18 months for that EB2 NIW stage one to process, I'm going to say do it as soon as you can, right?
Right.
You don't want to wait unless from the J1, maybe sometimes they might sponsor you for an H-1B, for example. I know that's happened before, or you want to study. I mean, you're going to need to find some kind of non-immigrant status to cover you, but don't wait too long. But I'd say at least 12 months out, let's file. So start looking into it about 2 years to a year and a half before, conservatively, right, to do it with time and maybe get it all done before the J1's over.
Okay, next question is going to be from Sammy Bin. Is Form I-140 sufficient for the NIW, or is there another form from the Department of Labor to be filed along with it? Sammy, what you're filing is an I-140 and the ETA or 9089 or 750, and those are Department of Labor forms. The funny part is they don't have to actually be certified by the Department of Labor. You just have to submit the form. But yes, we will help you with that. Not to worry. I'm going to go to the next one. Pradeep. When we port from EB2 to EB1, and if the EB1 petition gets denied, then will EB2 get rejected automatically? So Pradeep, you cannot port the date of a denied I-140 petition. So if you're going, when we port from EB2 to EB1, excuse me, okay, so I did it backwards. So if your first one is EB1 and the EB1 is denied, you can't port the date of a denied petition. If the first one is the EB2 and you want to port, obviously you can't port to a denied petition because what are you porting to? You can retain your original priority date.
Basically, yeah, you retain the date, Pradeep, so that's not an issue. And, just be mindful. I know sometimes you're stuck with the employer and you're trying to port. You could also port to other employers. But guess what? You could also try, instead of an EB1A, an EB2 NIW, which is a self-petition as well. So I see the strategy you're working there. It's interesting. Maybe consider EB2 NIW.
Beautiful. Okay. Juan, what happens if USCIS rejects my NIW and I have TPS? So Juan, you want to go ahead?
No, go for it. Go for it.
So Juan, TPS, it depends. It depends what you had before the TPS, because TPS is a lawful status. It is a status from which you can adjust, okay? If the NIW rejects, if USCIS denies your EB2 NIW petition, your I-140, nothing happens to your TPS, okay? You're fine. You retain your TPS as long as it's valid TPS registration. You can retain it. A denial of an NIW does not negatively affect the TPS. Now, let's be positive. Let's say your NIW is approved. If the NIW is approved, I can adjust your status only if you had lawful status before the TPS. You were a tourist, you became a TPS, then I could do adjustment of status. If you were here as a tourist, illegal for 2 years, then TPS, then NIW, it's very hard to adjust your status. In your situation, 100% contact an attorney because you need some guidance in that sense in how you're going to do it.
Right, because also, remember everyone, there's a difference between maintaining lawful presence and having lawful status. And that calculation and the number of days all matter, right? And that's subject to being a 3 or 10-year bar rule, or maybe there's a 245K. I mean, there are options, not many. So, but definitely speak to an attorney because, you don't want to miss out, right? That's definitely a good opportunity. Stephanie, I see a question here. Casey asks, do you need to already have a visa before getting this green card? Not at all. You could do this totally consular. You may have never entered the United States of America in your life, and you can still apply for the visa consular processing. It's not so important that your work experience was in the U.S., rather that you have professional work experience and that you've had some kind of success, right?
Right.
And it could be in your home country or in many other countries.
I love this question from Rutu. Rutu asks, software engineers are very in demand in Silicon Valley. Yes, they are. As a software engineer, how are my chances to get this EB1, EB2 green card? What do I need? P.S. I'm not in the US. Rutu, I love it. Call us. We do a lot of software engineers for the Silicon Valley area. And we have that argument. We've done it a million times in the past because what's happening is there's a lot of information out there that goes to show that 25% of positions in the software engineering field are not filled. There is a desperate demand for IT, software engineers, software developers, IT architects. There's a huge demand for all of these tech industries. And so it's a great EB2 NIW case, but depending on what you've done, maybe we'd want to do EB1. So I like EB2 NIW for software engineers, but we could even go the EB1 route because I know you're asking about both. The idea is let's have a consultation and let's see what's the better route for you. But I love EB2 NIW for software engineers. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
I love it.
We do some EB1As as well, but EB2 NIW is a great route, honestly. Brittany asks, do I have to stay in the same industry as my NIW case after it's approved? Well, Brittany, why would you leave if you've been so successful? Listen, the truth is you should continue to work in the industry until your green card process is over. Once you're a legal permanent resident, I mean, you know what? Maybe work in it for a little bit while, maybe 6 months to a year, and then feel free to explore your options in life.
I think the important part, Brittany, when you apply for U.S. citizenship, if you do, they're going to see that you got an EB2 NIW based on software engineering. And they're going to say, okay, so we gave you this benefit. Did you actually work in it? And you want to be able to say that you did. You want to be able to say that you did, even if, like Alexis says, for 6 months to a year, you want to be able to say that you actually did what you said you were going to do. So you don't have an issue at the time when you're applying for U.S. citizenship or even a renewal of your green card. Let me go to Indian Tech Guy. Can PhD students get a green card? Yes. So PhD students can either do it through advanced degree EB2 NIW. We could do exceptional ability and EB2 NIW. We could do it in a lot of different ways, but absolutely it is an option.
Definitely. And I'm going kind of through some of the questions and comments some Spanish speakers are asking. So I'll paraphrase now in English, but basically what happens to my husband or wife, so my spouse, during the NIW process, once the work permit is expired? Well, guess what? EB2 NIW, I mean, that stage 1 doesn't give you any benefit, right? The only benefits we're requesting for is the legal permanent residency, which we already established your spouse and children under the age of 21 can benefit from. While that's pending, again, you're going to have that temporary work permit, which you'll need to renew every 12 months or so. But once you get the legal permanent residency, each person is getting it as an individual. Each person will have the right to study, to work, to travel with that, under that status. It's done on an individual basis. You have the principal applicant and derivative applicants, and they're derivative beneficiaries of the principal applicant's petition. So basically, that's stage 2. Each person has their own application, and they're treated as individuals, right? But yeah, everyone gets the benefit and the same rights.
Beautiful. So if possible, for those asking us questions, try and ask the question once, because if not, we get lost. Okay, I'm going to jump to one. Alexis, I'd love for you to cover Oscar Ronderos. Go ahead, go looking for that question while I start with Patel. Oh, they already put it on the screen for you. Go ahead, go ahead. I'll go back to Patel after.
Okay, so Oscar asks, what should an IT recent graduate do to qualify for an EB2 NIW? Well, first, let's get to work, right? So you want to get that employment experience. And I mean, you're working in IT, so you're already involved in a very hot field. I think there's a lot of demand there. Get involved with associations. Maybe continue to be involved with the university. Maybe eventually you can judge the thesis work or, you know, the scholarly work of others who kind of went through the same process you did, right? I don't know if you graduated with the bachelor's, graduate degree, or whatnot. But you want to maintain those connections, right? So we want to try to cover as many of those categories as possible.
Membership.
Sorry?
Membership.
Yeah, I mean, membership. That's an easy one too. So, but number one, get to work. I mean, you need the employment experience. If you're working for 6 months, not good enough. 1 to 2 years, let's talk about it. But I'm really looking for 3 to 4 to 5 years of work experience, because that's really what's going to establish your position within the industry. So yeah, good luck. Hope to talk to you soon.
So Oscar in his previous question, he says, is an F1 bachelor's eligible for EB2 NIW? So Oscar, for you, I think our recommendation would be go F1 OPT, get some work experience with F1 OPT. And then you don't need the master's. So no, you don't have to go back and study for the master's. Get a STEM extension on your OPT because you're in a STEM field. So you're going to have at least 24 months of work experience, 17, 24, whatever it is. But you're going to have sufficient work experience that we can talk. We can say, okay, now you have some work experience. You have some work experience, you got us membership, you got a recognition, and you gave a lecture on the topic, and you wrote an article in IT magazine, okay? Then we can talk. So your steps now are go F1, OPT, OPT STEM, then let's do an NIW.
Yeah, and you know, always as a second option, because we know that NIW takes 12 to 18 months, maybe an H-1B to cover you as well.
Awesome. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Or even an O&A.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there are options, which is the great thing.
Yeah.
That's definitely great. Yeah.
So I'm going to jump to Patel. Am I allowed to use the same letters of recommendation for my NIW petition that I previously used for my EB1 petition? Patel, yes, you can. But am I going to use them if they say EB1, if they say extraordinary ability, if they say certain buzzwords that really only go toward EB1, I'm probably going to want to edit them. You're probably going to give them to me and say, hey, Stephanie, let's do my EB2 NIW case. And I'm going to ask you permission to edit those letters, and we're going to get them re-signed, because there is certain language that applies for the EB1 that doesn't apply to the EB2. So yeah, we can definitely use them, or we could definitely use the same authors, but we probably will want to edit them slightly to better fit what you're going to use them for now.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions here regarding like the work permits. So I'll just go with Evelyn's first. How long does it take for the work permit social security number to arrive after USCIS started our case? Once you file the I-765, it's taken around 4 to 6 months to get the work permit, and then you get the social security number shortly thereafter from the Social Security Department. So, I mean, it's all part of the process. It does take a few months, right? So don't think you're going to work immediately. And then also Juan asks, what's the best way to apply for a work permit? Do I go TPS or NIW? Juan, give us a call. Yeah. The details matter in something like that. It's very sensitive. It depends. So I'd love to speak to you about it and kind of give you a clearer option, right, of the two.
I like Alessio. I'm going to paraphrase the question. So he doesn't have a degree. in technology, but he does have 15 years work experience. He's been in the press. He's been on a TV show talking about tech. He's been on the radio. He got a major government award. Can he apply? Yes. So there is no requirement that you have the education as long as you can meet other criteria. If you can show that you have 15 years experience, recognitions, maybe you earn a high salary, maybe you're a member of organizations, you said you have given lectures, you said you've authored articles, you can definitely apply. A title, listen to me, I'm translating. A degree is not 100% necessary for the EB2 NIW, especially when you have 15 years of experience. I say 15 years of experience is the equivalent of having a degree. At that point, you know what you're doing in your industry. So I do like that question.
Yeah.
Did you see any other ones, Alexis?
I did see one here. Evelyn asks, what do you mean by stage 1 and 2? Do you recommend that I keep my F1 status until when? We're both doctors. So Evelyn, stage 1, we're filing for EB2 NIW, right? Am I exceptional? Am I going to get this benefit, right? And once that's approved, you're able to move on to stage 2, which is filing for the green card based off of an approved I-140 petition, here being EB2 NIW visa classification. Since the stage 1 does not give you any status, you need to maintain a F1 status at that point. Once you file stage 2, you have the option of leaving the F1 status, right? Because that is going to give you some, it's going to cover your basis a bit. And at that point, you're more than likely going to be approved, barring any crimes, any immigration history that might be contrary to what the immigration is looking for, things like that. But once you have stage 1, which is the important part, then stage 2 is pretty much a home run. And then there we can discuss it. It's all a part of strategy. If you're interested, please give us a call, and we could get into the details of where you're at with the F1, you and your spouse, and what we should do. You can see it right below.
To our media team, can you put up that question from Jeffersy again? I'm going to go in the meantime. Alexis, I want you answering the Jeffersy question. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. So Jeffersy asks, what do you think about the accountants? Have they opportunity to apply for EB2? I mean, yes. I've actually worked with countless accountants in the field. I mean, it really depends. You know, are you doing more personal accounting? Are you working with businesses? I mean, are we doing more of the tech sector? You know, what are the details, right? That's going to influence a bit what kind of accounting firm you've worked with as well. Why? Because there are needs for people with expertise in accounting. There is an economic benefit. I think it also leads to job growth, right? When you're handling the accounting for a big company, maybe, right? So we could get into all the details, but I'd like to see more of maybe your work experience and what you've been able to do in your career. Because yes, we've successfully filed EB2 NIWs for many accountants.
I like this question from Diana Tirado. She is an architect with a master's degree and a certificate in sustainable development, sustainable architecture. She has a design company and she is a university professor. Do I qualify for the EB2 NIW? I love it, Diana, especially because you know what element you bring? You're doing something different, which is sustainable development in architecture. And that's new and that's cutting edge. I mean, everything is moving towards sustainability. So what a good argument for me to make, which is this person isn't just an architect. This person is an architect focused on sustainability, which is huge in the market right now. That is something that every market wants to get into. So you have a really nice little niche and a nice focus. I really like the case. I recommend you contact us.
Exactly. I mean, I love it, man. Infrastructure. I think it's a big thing. We're talking about over $1 trillion worth of investment required in the United States. The government's aware of it. The current president is into it. Congress is talking about it. So anything tied to that, I think, is also a great. There's a great argument to be had. And if your career kind of complements it, let's give it a go.
Los Elegidos wants us to have this in Spanish, Alexis. So it looks like we're going to be doing this in Spanish soon. Thank you for letting us know. Let me ask my team, do they see any other English questions that we can put up now? Otherwise, we'll begin to wrap up. Let me see. Let's see if we have anything else.
I think there are a couple of questions at the end. If you want to give it a go. How long does the EB2 NIW process take from applying to the green card? I mean, again, stage 1, we're looking at 12 to 18 months. Stage 2 as well. Even if you do it constant, I think with the global pandemic, it's kind of slowed things down to about 12, 18 months. So I'd say unless you're doing it concurrently, it's going to take about 2 years, 2.5 years from start to finish. If you do it concurrently, maybe about 1.5 years.
Okay, let's see. I just saw one, but I lost it. Basically, I don't know what the name. Oh, Janina. Janina, can graphic designers apply or individuals involved in advertising publishing? Janina, yes, graphic designers can apply, but I think the EB1 might be better suited for you because graphic design, I see it as something that's in the arts. Advertising, publishing, creative directors, these are individuals who are more in the arts. So the EB1 might be the better route for you. My recommendation to you is send us a copy of your CV, info@beltrambrito.com, and we can go ahead and evaluate and we can have a conversation if the EB2 is better for you or the EB1. I tend to like EB1 graphic designers because it's more arts. It's, that's the vibe.
Yeah, I agree.
Alexis, tell the people to subscribe.
I mean, they need to subscribe. Wait, over here. There we go. They need to subscribe.
Okay.
One last, and this is a very serious question. I mean, I'm glad someone finally asked this, but Oscar asks, Gil once said Stephanie gets sent to Hawaii and Alexis to Alaska. Ha ha ha. What do you think about that, Alexis? Well, let me tell you, I don't mind the cold weather, and I'm clearly prepared for a little bit of snow. Alaska. I love Mother Nature. I can't wait. I'll go.
Send me to Hawaii.
You want to go to Hawaii?
Send me to Hawaii. I'm good there.
You're surfing. I'm skiing. I know.
He is, and Alexis is really, a lumberjack. He knows how to bring down the trees and be self-sufficient. And I, on the other hand, need to be, handed my cocktails by the pool in Hawaii.
Another pina colada for the lady.
Alexis, you are popular today. We're going to bring you more often onto this channel. You are a popular guy. It's the beard. It's the beard, bud.
I want to say it's what's in here, but if it's the beard, we'll go with that too.
Okay, so I think we're wrapping up our questions. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us on this EB2 NIW talk. It's a beautiful case, and we wanted to give a little focus of 2021. 2021 is a beautiful time to be applying for the EB2 NIW because it's what Alexis touched on earlier. Matter of Danisar changed the atmosphere, changed what's the word I'm looking for?
I think the standard, right? It kind of expanded. The possibilities for people.
They changed that. There's a word for atmosphere that I'm looking for, but it changed the panorama. That's the one. And so Matter of Danisar made the EB2 NIW slightly easier. If you were applying for the EB2 NIW in 2016, it was a harder standard. And that case did make it a little easier. And right now, 2020, 2021 is when officers are beginning to apply the new standard. They're beginning to understand it and know and apply the new standard. So right now is a beautiful time where EB1 was having a tough time for a little bit. And then we went back to EB1 and it was winning. Right now is the time that we're going back to EB2 NIW because it's winning. It's a good case. So it's a good time to be applying now. Any last remarks, Alexis?
I agree with you, Stephanie. I mean, anyone who's interested, just give us a call. We'll be more than glad to talk to you about the details. No two cases are ever really alike. Don't be surprised about that. So I'd love to speak to you. Stephanie would too. We would all love to talk to you. And aside from that, I guess we'll see you soon. Spanish version. I'll brush off my Spanish, right? And be ready for that next week, maybe. We'll see.
Let's see. We'll definitely put announcements. You can find us on Instagram at Beltran Brito LLP, where we will announce our next videos. We do Q&A every Friday. Lexus will be joining us for another video, hopefully next week, which we will post on our channels. And you can find us on YouTube, Beltran Brito Casimir LLP. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. And as always, subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. Bye.